Hello, everybody, and hello. Welcome to the Turd Ferguson 619 podcast. And today we're going to review Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 4, Spoils of War. Yes, I am behind. I had a lot of work to do, and I couldn't record my regularly scheduled once-a-week podcast where I talk about Game of Thrones so far, or this season. But now I found some time. I'm working hard towards catching up. So last time we left off, we talked about Season 7, Episode 3. Now we're going to talk about Episode 4. And just because I didn't have time and I wasn't able to record a podcast reviewing Game of Thrones doesn't mean I'm excused from that episode. No. I owe that episode. That's like back in the day when you went to school and you got sick, quotation marks, and you couldn't take your test. You weren't excused from that test. Once you got back to school, you had to do that makeup test. So now I'm doing my makeup Game of Thrones review. So this episode starts where the last episode took off. The Lannister army had just taken control of Thorne. They have their wheat. They have their gold. Their gold is being sent off to King's Landing to Cersei so she can pay back the Iron Bank. And Bronn is given as a reward for his loyalty to the Lannister army this really big bag of gold. And it's just a very funny interaction how Sir Bronn, he's very wealthy, very rich, carrying his big bag of gold, but he wants his castle. He was promised a castle and he hasn't been delivered. So then the scene goes from Thorne and it moves its way to King's Landing where Cersei's talking to the Wall Street Iron Banker and paying the Iron Banker back all the money that's owed to them by the crown, the tremendous debt that Robert Baratheon, while he was king, he accumulated. Then we transition into Winterfell, where Littlefinger gives Bran the dagger. It was the dagger that was used as an assassination attempt on Bran that started, what Littlefinger said, started the War of the Five Kings. So Bran receives it. Bran's looking at it. Littlefinger is telling him that Bran lost his family. Bran made his way to the north. A lot of madness past the wall. And that there must have been chaos, all this chaos. And Bran tells Littlefinger, he says, chaos is a ladder. Like he knows, he's seen some things. He knows what Littlefinger's been up to. He's seen what Littlefinger's been up to. Littlefinger has that weird look on his face. He doesn't know what's up with Bran because just Bran is... The way Bran looks to Littlefinger, he's accidentally stumbling on these things. It's like, how could he know he wasn't there and he's just this little kid when all of this was happening? But he's just stumbling on these words, phrases, and things, and it's just going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. I feel that Bran is going to warg into Littlefinger, and the collapse of Littlefinger is going to be through the hands of Bran. Because I know my brother always told me that everybody that's ever lost something on Game of Thrones has always been something that's very precious and dear to them. For example, spoiler alert, but we're already at Season 7. If you haven't been watching Game of Thrones by now, I'm sorry, but the only way to talk about Game of Thrones is with spoilers. In Season 1, one of the major characters, Ned Stark, the way that he lost was that he was taking something precious or something that he holds dear to him, which was he wanted... What was most important to him was being honorable. He was supposed to be the most honorable guy in all of Westeros. And the way he died was he was known as a traitor and a usurper, which was everything that he wasn't. And he was trying to solve the mystery in the first season of what happened to his best friend. And every character, if you look at every character in Game of Thrones, they have always lost something that's very precious or important to them. Another example would be Battle of the Bastards, when Roose Bolton's bastard son, he was so obsessed with being this great ruler, controlling this land, being recognized, that at the end of the battle, when he lost it, Sansa said, "No one's going to remember you. You're just going to be forgotten." and that was the thing that hurt him the most. So I feel that Littlefinger, he's so obsessed. He wants power. He wants to be, as Varys has said throughout the season, king of Westeros. He wants to sit on the Iron Throne. Even if it's burned to ashes, he wants to call himself the king. He's so obsessed with that. And the way that he does that is with acquiring knowledge and these backwards politics and dealings. And just Bran knows so much. He can enter people's minds that I feel that Littlefinger's collapse is going to be through the hands of Bran. Bran's going to do something to him, and it's going to be a really loss to Littlefinger, and he's going to have so much to lose. And that's what happens when you play the Game of Thrones. So then after Bran is given the dagger, the assassination Valyrian steel dagger, to Littlefinger, and Littlefinger realizes that he can't he can't manipulate, he can't take over with Bran. Bran is just completely out there. He's on another planet. Then we see Arya. Arya wants to enter Winterfell. She's decided that instead of going to King's Landing and taking out the Queen, she's going to go to Winterfell, but they just won't let her in. Nobody recognizes her. The guards will not let her pass. And she's pretty much telling them that one way or another she's going to get in. And if they don't let her in, she's going to tell everybody that they didn't let her in, and these guards are just going to be humiliated. So they let her in, and while they're looking for Sansa to let her know that Arya's in Winterfell, Arya just disappears. And they let Sansa know that she wasn't there, and Sansa knows where to find her. She's in the crypts looking at the remains of her family, her dad, Ned Stark, and her mom, her brothers. And then it's that big reunion. It's what everyone's been waiting for, to see the Stark children reunited. But, Arya's talking about her list and the people that she's going to kill. So it seems like she's not going to stay long in Winterfell. She wants to complete her list. And I don't know why Arya went to Winterfell. It seems like, I think that's just my one complaint so far about the writing. Everything's been well about this season of Game of Thrones, but just my one writing is Arya going back to Winterfell. The writing just doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense with what she is. It doesn't look like she wants to be there, and then now that she's there at Winterfell, she looks like she doesn't belong. It was pretty much that great example about her wolf, Nymeria, how she didn't want to come back with Arya. It just wasn't her. And then we get what we've been waiting for, another Stark reunion between Bran and Arya. And it was just very nice. As a fan, you want to see the Stark reunion, but when you see some of the characters there that just don't fit with the reunion, that they're not the same anymore, that they've been through so much, Arya being nobody, Bran being the three-eyed raven, and then just Sansa being really frustrated that she just wants things to go back to the way they are, but they can't because they've endured so much. So then Bran gives Arya that Valyrian dagger. So now pretty much Arya looks just like Sir Bronn, where Bronn always carries his sword as well as that dagger for any tough situations. That dagger's always there to bail him out. So then from there, Sansa's telling Bran, where did you get that dagger? She's just really surprised. It's a really nice dagger. It's made from Valyrian steel. And Bran says, oh, Littlefinger gave it to me. So then she says, well, you got to be careful with Littlefinger. He doesn't just give stuff away and doesn't expect anything in return. He always wants something back, something in return. But Brian is not afraid of Littlefinger. He doesn't care what Littlefinger is. He's just lost in his own world. I think what Brian represents to the audience, it's just how beautiful it is to see the Starks reunited, and everything that everyone had to endure just to make their way back home. He's the audience point of view, because he said when he met with Arya, he said, oh, Arya, I didn't think you were coming back. I saw you reach that fork in the road, and I thought you were going to King's Landing. So pretty much he's just guiding us as well as the characters of Game of Thrones. So then we transfer to Dragonstone, where Jon Snow is talking to Daenerys and letting Daenerys know that they found the dragon glass. They're getting ready to mine it, but if she wants to take a look before they take it apart, and she marvels for a while at the dragon glass in its natural state. And then Jon takes her a little bit further into the mine to show her the earlier paintings from the Children of the Forest. And it was just something very inspiring for Daenerys to see. She saw how important it is for all men to unite to defeat the White Walkers, that the biggest threat out there are the White Walkers. But Daenerys still wants Jon to bend at the knee. So it's pretty much a back and forth. It's like that Friends where Ross and Rachel were together, then they weren't together, and they were back together. So every time Jon Snow shows Daenerys what's so important, it's defeating the White Walkers, preserving human life, she brings it back around. She's like, okay, I'll help you, but you have to help me. You have to bend at the knee. So they're going back and forth with that. And then as they're leaving the mine, Daenerys receives bad news that they took Castle Rock, but there's nothing there for them. It's not worth holding. It's useless. The mines have no gold. Whatever resources were left were gone. The Lannister army took. And that her Unsullied, her ultimate army, is just stranded there. They can't go back by boats because Theon's uncle just destroyed their boats. He controls the sea, so they have to march back, and they might get picked off by Lannister armies or any of the other armies that are loyal to Cersei. So Daenerys is really frustrated. She wants to fly on her dragon. She wants to sort of tip the scale in her favor because things are going towards Cersei's, and she's losing the war. She lost her allies. She lost the Sand Snakes. She lost the people of Thorne. And she asks for Jon for advice. She says, okay, I've listened to Tyrion. His advice hasn't been able to help me. It's set me back. It's made me lose important allies. Varys, same thing as Tyrion. His plans aren't working. So what do you have, Jon? And Jon Snow pretty much says that if you go in with your dragons into King's Landing and you burn everybody, that you're not different from everyone. You're pretty much the same. And that this whole time, Daenerys, you want to be different. You want to show everybody something different. And if you go in there flexing your muscle, your dragons, you're not different. You're just going to give everybody more the same. So do something different. And then we got this really great scene. We see Podrick training with Brienne to become a knight. And then Arya does that whole, you know how like in the old movies where the couple's dancing and you get the one guy that's like, hey, can I cut in? So Arya wants to cut in and she wants to face Brienne, which was a very impressive sparring match, just to be able to watch this giant Brienne, capable fighter, and Arya, this smaller fighter, just very energetic, training all her spare time just to be the best fighter, just go at it. And it seems like they're evenly matched because the battle ends where Arya loses her sword, but she pulls out her dagger, and at the same time Brienne has her sword. But I think pretty much Arya's a little more she's trained a little harder and she's better equipped for battle than Brienne. It was pretty much what I'm trying to say is Brienne would be like the mountain and Arya's like the viper. You know, as long as she stays away from that brute force of anybody that's taller and stronger than her, she could survive as she's cutting major arteries, slowing her opponent down. But if she gets within that danger zone and within range and they knock her out, then it's all over for Arya. Then you got Sir Davos and Jon speaking, and they're still doing that fewer thing. So Jon says something about less, and then Davos corrects him fewer. Then they go over and they talk to Miss Sunday, and they're trying to get an idea about it, how Daenerys wants to be queen, and how she freed the Unsullied. She freed all the slaves from Slaver's Bay. And Missandei reminds them that they chose Daenerys to be their queen. It wasn't that she flexed her power and ruled them, and that they all have the opportunity to be free and leave. Then we got, Theon makes his way back to Dragonstone, and when he makes his way back, he sees Jon, and Jon just wants to tear him apart. And he tells Theon, the only reason why you're alive is because you helped my sister. I mean, Theon, the boy, just he's made some bad decisions, and he's reminded of them every day, and he has to live with them. He made his way back to Dragonstone because he's hoping that Daenerys will help him free his sister. Then we have, in the Battle of House Tyrell, Bronn was the first to know that an attack was coming. So as they're trying to, wrap it up and collect all their wheat and resources from House Tyrell, Bronn, the experienced sell sword that he is, here's an attack coming before anybody else. If it wasn't for Bronn, I think everybody just would have been slaughtered. But because Bronn hears it, he lets everyone know, and they prepare. Jaime, the general, shields and spears, and everyone gets their shields and spears, and the Lannister army is ready, and they're trying to see what's coming. And right over the hill, it's the Dothraki army riding horseback, ready to charge. And the Lannister army, they're a little afraid and worried, because the Dothraki are supposed to be the greatest warriors in all of the land, in that little world of Song of Ice and Fire. Then Daenerys shows up with one dragon. She left her other two back home. She brings one dragon, and it's just the worst. The Lannister army are in the worst position, because I remember Bronn said something. They were asking him about the smell of battle, and Bronn says that before somebody dies, they shit themselves, and that's what that smell from battle is. It's shit. So the Lannister army, they're not dead yet, but once they see those Dothraki soldiers combined with that 1-2 punch of the dragon, they start shitting themselves. Then the dragon, Dracarys, opens his mouth, spews fire, and starts destroying the line that the Lannister army is trying to hold. And it was just an incredible sight. We've been waiting so long for a battle like this, for Daenerys to use her forces, her army, her strength. She's using her dragons. Her dragons are destroying mass amount of troops. The Dothraki are picking off the stragglers, the warriors that are trying to, the Lannister army that are trying to hold their ground. They're just completely devastated. They have no hope. There's nothing they can do. It's all over. Everybody's shitting themselves. Everybody's worried. They're scrambling. They're trying to see what they can do. I know Jaime, as a last resort, he gets some of his archers to try to shoot arrows at Daenerys and her dragon. The dragon uses his thick skin to block the arrows and keep Daenerys safe. Those little arrows are completely useless. And then Jaime tells Bronn, all we have left, man, is please use the scorpion. And Bronn is just this guy that's just so worried about keeping himself alive. He holds his life above everything else, above money, above promises, about honor, above everything. The most important thing is his life. And we've seen that all throughout the season, how Bronn is trying to keep Bronn alive, which was earlier when Tyrion Lannister was on trial, and he was hoping that his friend Bronn would come in and represent him in a trial of combat. And Bronn said, no, I'm not going into battle of combat because that's the mountain and I'm going to die. So Bronn wants to keep himself alive. He's like, I'm not going to use a scorpion. And then Jaime looks at shows him his hand that was taken from him by the Boltons and says, I can't fire scorpion with one hand. And Bronn's just pissed. He's running, trying to get the scorpion, try to take out the dragon. And as he's running, he comes across a Dothraki warrior. And this Dothraki warrior is pretty much the Terminator, trying to get him, trying to kill him. Knocks Bronn off his horse. Bronn loses his gold, what's very important to him, his gold, his value. And he wants to go after his gold, but this Dothraki soldier is just right on him and won't leave him alone, like the Terminator, and he lets it go because the most important thing for Bronn is his life. Bronn values his life. He lets his gold go, and it comes back to what Jaime was saying earlier, how Bronn was so obsessed with his castle, he was obsessed with gold, and Jaime told him, the more things you have, the more it weighs you down. And Bronn's running in, he's moving around, cutting off other Dothraki warriors, and then he finally makes it into the little cart where the Scorpion is. And when that Terminator Dothraki warrior tries to come in, a Scorpion arrow's waiting for him, and he gets stung. So then Bronn starts reloading, he gets his arrow ready, and he shoots it at Dracarys and hits. He slows Dracarys down, Dracarys starts to fall with Daenerys, and they land on the ground. But right before anything else could happen, Dracarys is so pissed off that he got shot by that arrow that he just dismantles the Scorpion, completely destroys it. So Jaime, he sees the dragon wounded, Daenerys trying to take the Scorpion stinger off the dragon. Jaime senses and sees the opportunity that he could end the war, and he starts riding towards Daenerys with a giant spear trying to kill her. And as Jaime starts approaching, Tyrion looks at Jaime and says, "Run, fool, run." He cares about his brother, he's worried about his brother, and he doesn't want anything to happen to his brother. But his brother won't listen, and Tyrion is like, "You fucking idiot." Pardon my French. So as Jaime's getting really close and he's about to kill Daenerys, the dragon catches him, is about to spew fire, and Sir Bronn, with the clutch save, knocks Jaime out of Hell's Fire's way into the river, saves his life. The scene ends with Jaime sinking towards the bottom of the lake. He's got that heavy prosthetic arm weighing him down. He's got his armor weighing him down. Scene ends. Oh my gosh. This was a really good episode of Game of Thrones. This was a 10 out of 10 episode. It was just well done, well shot. I was at the edge of my seat from the beginning of the episode to the end, to the battle. The writers, producers, everybody on that show gave us one hell of an episode, a worthwhile Game of Thrones, vintage Game of Thrones. This is why you watch Game of Thrones. This episode had it all. 10 out of 10. And what did you guys have to say as far as Game of Thrones? So I went on Twitter, I went on hashtag Game of Thrones to see what you guys were talking about. And some of the stuff I found, there was this collage of pictures, which is Jaime riding his horse with the spear. It says what we saw as the audience. Then you see this lion running across, and it's what Dany saw coming towards her. So she saw the lion charging towards her. Then you have what the dragon saw, which was a raw chicken. And then what Bronn saw was his castle on fire, his promise. Dragon about to burn his castle. I really like that collage, so I thought I'd share that with you guys. What else are you guys talking about on Twitter? What else was trending? Or what else were you guys mentioning? This one was really funny too. I liked it a lot. It was Jaime sinking to the bottom of the sea, and it said Finding Jaime. So it was that play on Pixar. Finding Jaime, Finding Dora, Finding Nemo. And then when you see that spelling of Jaime, I like how the lion makes that little hole for the A. I really like that one. That's a really good one. I think that's one of my favorite things I found on the social medias. And then what else we got? I like this one person on Twitter that wrote, Bronn deserves his castle. It's that picture of Bronn after Dracarys napalmed the Lannister army, and it says, "I don't care who ends up on the Iron Throne. I just want to see Bronn get his fucking castle." That's a good one too. Everybody that posts something on social media is just very creative. I love them. And then this one is totally true. This picture, House Lannister Employee of the Month, and you got the portraits of Sir Bronn. I love that one. On their castle, that is true. Bronn has been saving the Lannister army over and over and over again from Season 2 Battle of the Blackwater to now their most powerful general, Jaime Lannister, saving him clutch. He deserved his castle and more for everything that he does. What else? What else do we got on these social medias? This one is very true, and it's a good use of a GIF. It's that Seinfeld GIF with his mouth open, and it says, "Watching that dragon fly is like," that episode of Seinfeld where he was just overwhelmed and impressed. And then we got, this one is very funny. This is a good one. So you have Jon Snow. "How do we persuade Dany to fight the Night King in Davos? I minored in art, Your Grace. Give me chalk and 5 minutes." And then you got that picture of the guy that draws the happy little trees in the corners. And that's really funny. So it's kind of implying that Sir Davos drew those little White Walker stick figures. What else do we got here? Okay, so this one is a compliment to the writers on Game of Thrones. It said, "The struggle of not wanting Jaime and Bronn to die, and also not wanting Dany and the dragon to die. That is great character writing." So that, goes out to the writers and just how well they wrote this episode, how well they wrote the whole series. And it's going to be sad to watch it go. Then we got this one. Arya Stark trying to get into Winterfell was a great callback to Season 1 when the guards wouldn't let her in. So what I've loved about Season 7, there's this tragedy that's coming towards Game of Thrones, which is Cersei, Daenerys, the power struggle. People that are going to die is everybody in the middle. The powerful don't die. It's the everyday people that die, the lives that are lost. This is a tragic battle between power, between Cersei that forced herself to be queen versus Daenerys that could do right for the people of Westeros. And then it's supposed to be tragic, but they find ways on this season of Game of Thrones to stick humor, to stick comedy, and make it very light, even though tragedy is right around the corner. I love the Easter eggs. I love the callbacks that have been happening this season. And I just remember that was so funny. When I saw Arya trying to get back into Winterfell, it reminded me of Season 1 when she was trying to get into King's Landing and they wouldn't let her in. Then we got this one that people are just in love with the dragons. We're finally getting to see more of the dragons, whereas in previous seasons the dragons were sprinkled on here and there. Now we're getting the dragons like they're regular characters. So you have the sweetest little badass dragon, and it's Dracarys when he was, I guess that was Season 2, when he was little, trying to learn how to feed himself, fire his own food. And now he's grown up to be this mass dragon that destroys armies, napalms armies. And then we got this other one, which is a really nice one. It said, "Take a bloody bow," and it's a screenshot of all the stunt people that worked on that episode of Game of Thrones. The stunts, the way the battle scenes were shot, they were acted, they were portrayed all around. We cannot, myself, as well as the fans, as well as people on social media, compliment enough everybody working on Game of Thrones. This was a really good episode. It was completely well done. It was great. My God. Just a great collaboration by so many talented people, and we're excited and we can't wait for the next episode. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to this podcast, for this review. Sorry it's late, but now it's done. And till the next podcast, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.